Feminist declares COVID-19 is trying to bring back the 1950s housewife. We obviously have to stop the coronavirus lockdown from reinforcing sexist gender roles. Hello everyone, this is Mr. Obvious, and today on theconversation.com. So, headline, Return of the 1950s housewife? How to stop coronavirus lockdown from reinforcing sexist gender roles. Isn't that hysterical? This headline is actually complaining that the lockdown caused by the current pandemic is forcing women to be housewives again. Oh, how cruel! Bigotry, I yell! Bigotry! Imagine thinking that being a good wife, being a good mother, and being a good woman was sexist. How privileged are you? Oh boy. So, we're going to talk about this article, we're going to talk about feminism, and we're going to talk about modern women. I will be going through some historical fact to back up my arguments and kind of explain why this is all nonsense. And this article is by a woman, Hee-Jung Shung. Now, before we begin, remember to like the video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you want to contribute to the channel. Links to support the channel are down below in the description. Let's begin. As the COVID-19 virus spreads across the world, many governments have shut down schools, nurseries, and other care providers. With more and more people working from home, it is likely that many families will find themselves in a situation where both parents are trying to work from the kitchen table while also attempting to homeschool the children. This, on top of the regular household chores, as well as cooking and cleaning, can feel like an extra load for many parents at this time. The likelihood is, though, that despite both parents being at home, much of the domestic work will still land squarely on the shoulders of the women of the house. So much like the 1950s housewife, women will not only be expected to make exciting meals, keep the house clean and tidy, and the children entertained, but she'll also have to do all of this while working from home. Okay, so she's complaining. So first of all, notice the adjectives. Oh, we have to make the house nice and tidy. Exciting meals. The children need to be entertained. None of these are things that anybody expects. What people expect is that you help make sure the house is not, a pigsty, that there's food that's edible, and that the children are still alive. That's basically it. Nobody is saying that you have to do, go the extra mile. Because, who would want to put in the effort to be a good wife and mother? That's crazy. But your biggest argument here is that you have to work from home and that you simply don't have time. Well, guess who you have to blame for that? Feminism. You see, in the past, it used to be that women didn't have to work, not from home and, not at all. You see, in the past, men were the sole breadwinners. This was back during the golden age of America, the nuclear family. This was back during the baby boomer era. You see, back then, men could work a single job straight out of high school, afford a house, afford kids, and afford a wife, and they were taken care of. The woman was the homemaker. She took care of the home, she took care of the children, and she helped take care of her husband. In return, her husband worked his butt off to pay for everything. It was a system that worked. But then something magical happened. Women joined the workforce. Women gained women's suffrage. And women were liberated. More like liberated to be a worker drone slave. Yes. Women were told the lie that liberation was voting and working, just like men. Nobody told them that work actually sucks. However, this has had greater consequences for women and greater consequences for society at large. Let's take a little look at the historical record. Cue the background music. So here we have a chart from Equitable Growth. It shows that more women have been joining the labor force, peaking at the turn of the century. In 1948, women participation in the labor force was at an all-time low. By 1960, only 38% of women were in the US workforce. By 1999, that number grew to 60%. So here you can see that the labor participation rate of women working has grown dramatically. So what have been the consequences of this? When all of a sudden a majority of men are in the workforce, it means that now there's a bigger labor pool. What that ultimately means is increased competition, lower wages, and, less men able to find jobs or support families. It's really unfortunate. And women kind of screw themselves because now everybody is working. Because other things have happened in the past century that have also had bad consequences. Here, for example, Americans' paychecks are bigger than 40 years ago, but their purchasing power has hardly budged. What this really means is that although our paychecks have been getting bigger because of inflation is when, basically it's like this. Inflation means that $20 is now worth $10. It's not that complicated, but basically purchasing power is how much your money can actually buy. So if wages were truly going up in a traditional sense without inflation, your purchasing power would also go up. But as you can see from this chart, purchasing power has not moved at all. It was rising in the 60s and has been stagnant ever since. So although we're getting paid more, what we're getting paid is only worth $2 more than it was worth in 1960. That is horrible. On top of that, the US divorce rate over the past century has grown dramatically. Now there's many people who have said, well, actually, the US divorce rate has fallen. And they would be correct. If you look at, the 1980s to 2000s, yes, the divorce rate has fallen, but that's only on the micro scale. What about on the macro? On the macro scale, divorce has greatly risen. It remains at an all-time high, as you can see from the full chart. But apparently, women are suffering. They're suffering because, once again, they're expected to be housewives. Oh man, it's so horrible to be a wife and mother. Oh, if only they could go back to their empty office where they can earn lots of money despite having nothing else in life. They go home after long days of work, 33 years of age. No husband, no boyfriend, just 3 cats, Pinky, Fluffy, and Snickers. They go to their cabinet, they get out a bottle of wine, and they sit down. They look at their phone on social media to see what everyone else is doing. And they sip some of that wine and watch some TV. Ah, yes. They spent 10 years of the prime of their life working and building a career. And what do they have to show for it? A big bank account, no family, no legacy, no one. A lot of women have ended up in that situation. And honestly, I think women were lied to. I think women were told that working and being a man and being a bachelor was some sort of grandiose thing. And maybe it is for men. But for a woman, most women aren't happy. Here's a paper I cite often. From the National Bureau of Economic Research, nber.org, The Paradox of Declining Female Happiness. The paper, which you can download and I will include in the description, talks about how even though life for women have dramatically improved, yeah, they say improved, has it really though? Over the past 35 years, the subjective well-being and mental health of women have declined both absolutely and relative to men. They call it a paradox because feminism and women's liberation and women's suffrage were supposed to make women happy. And yet they're very unhappy. And so we're back to the article. This woman is unhappy. She's unhappy with having to be a mom, having to be at home, having to live. Professor of sociology Arlie Hochschild looked at heterosexual couples in 1970 and the 1980s, and noted that women were doing what she termed the second shift. So despite record numbers of women being in the labor market, women still end up going to work and then coming home to do a second job, namely the bulk of housework and childcare. Oh gee, if only we had invented a system where women didn't have to go to work and could focus solely on the household. Oh wait, I remember. Women threw it away. They decided that feminism was better and that they wanted to work too. And they fell for it. Oh, yes. The second shift. Women used to only have one shift, and that was taking care of the family. And they threw it all away. Now, in this day and age of post-feminism and reverse gender roles, which are honestly cancer, like, if you're into that sort of thing, yeah, cool. I'm on your side, buddy. I'm all for it. Give me, a strong female woman with muscle and big thighs. Yeah, I could live with that. What I can't live with is the idea that men should be women and women should be men. I absolutely do not agree. Women do not like it. Isn't it weird how, despite the fact that there are career women who make money, they almost always refuse to date a modest man of modest mien who will be a good husband and stay at home, take care of the house, take care of the kids, be a house husband. Most men are perfectly fine with that gig. Well, okay, not all men, but a lot of men. Personally, I couldn't do it. Yeah, well, I guess if she was rich. But I would still want to do something meaningful, something productive. It's just in me, and I assume it's in a lot of men. But women don't want these men. Women don't want a house husband. They want a star husband, a trophy husband, one that's richer than them, one that's better looking than them, one that's taller than them, etc., etc. Which is why most women who are career women end up single and alone in the first place. But on the other hand, men have always been okay with dating women even if she's not rich, even if she's not completely competent. Men have always been okay with dating women that don't make as much money as them. But it doesn't work the other way around. And because of this, and the divorce rate, and the declining female happiness, you're beginning to see why society is falling apart. And it can all be traced back to feminism and women's right to work. Women's liberation. I'm not going to say that it backfired on women, but it backfired on women. So mostly they're complaining that men aren't doing as much housework as women. Most men have lower standards for housework, and that could be part of it, but they are making that complaint, and then they post a video that is talking about the debunked gender pay gap. The gender pay gap is a myth. It does not exist. In fact, with some recent numbers, and I'm not going to bother to look all this up, you can look it up yourself. There's recent studies that show that women are actually starting to earn more than men. I do have one article. Here it says on BDN editorials, wake up call. Boys are falling behind in school, college, and careers. Now, there's plenty of people who are talking about this issue. Boys are falling behind in school because they changed the school curriculum to better suit women because women were suffering in math. So they changed everything to be more understandable to women. And it's been hurting boys because boys just don't understand it the same way. Women are now more educated than men, so men are falling behind in that too. And women are now overtaking men in careers. Let me make this clear. This is not equality. This is privilege. Women are currently privileged in society, and now boys need help. But when was the last time you heard a feminist say, let's help boys who are falling behind? Never. I've never heard it once. Ever. So here we go. They're saying society still believe that women hold the responsibility when it comes to housework and care, while men are still mainly responsible for the breadwinning. Now, if you're going to complain about this, like I said earlier, then you need to find a husband that you can have as a house husband while you go to work and you be the breadwinner. Put your money where your mouth is. Okay? But I have a feeling that you won't, because you believe that men should work. So, who exactly is pushing the stereotype here? Is it women? Oh, it could be. So this is what really annoys me about a lot of working women and modern feminists. They say there's a third shift, ensuring the emotional well-being of not only her children, but also other family members during this time of crisis and stress. Nobody is asking you to do all these things. These are things you do if you give a shit. What you're telling me is that you consider all of it work, and in reality, you don't actually give a shit. You're basically just jerking yourself off. As a man, I know what that's like. Maybe literally, but I still know what it's like. Okay. Get over yourself. Why don't you just admit that you're a terrible human being, don't do anything, and let your husband divorce you and take the kids? Okay, then you don't gotta do anything. Then you'll be happy, okay? Problem solved. Abandon your family. That's what you want. I'm just really annoyed by this, like, do men complain about how much shit they have to put up with when it comes to women? Okay, look, women out there, I'm trying to be fair here, but do you know how much crap men put up with in regards to the female gender? Oh my God, trust me. Even if you think you're an angel, even if you think, oh, you're easy to handle, trust me. Men put up with a lot of crap. A lot. Okay, especially in today's society where you're not allowed to just be a man. Men put up with a lot. So, don't think it's easy for men either, having to have the weight of the world on his shoulders, because most men feel this way, and most men are treated this way. Okay. So her solution is ultimately that men and women should divvy up the work. Never mind if the woman is actually doing less work than the husband, because it does happen in some cases. They talk about an equal society for the future. Now, if they ultimately want an equal society, like I said, they will be the breadwinner and they will let men stay at home. Unless they do that, I consider all of their arguments invalid. But they do bring up a good point. More companies need to be realistic about the needs of parents. You see, the real losers in all this It's not necessarily men, and it's not necessarily women, though both have suffered. The real losers in all of this is the American family. Children. Children are the main victims of post-feminism and post-female liberation. They are the victims of parents who are never home, parents who never have time for them, and broken households thanks to divorce. So this woman says we need to stop the lockdown from making us back into the 1950s housewife, even though what children really need is the 1950s housewife. There's nothing sexist about gender roles. There's nothing sexist about the 1950s housewife. If you think otherwise, I think you're a sad human being. Because those roles are necessary, and the job of caretaker is necessary. But that's merely the obvious. Well, that's all for now, folks. What do you think about this story? What do you think about modern feminism? What do you think about the 1950s housewife? Is coronavirus reinforcing sexist gender roles? Be sure to let me know. Now, as always, if you do like my content and you want to support the content, check out the links down below in the description. I have a Patreon page, I have a Subscribestar page if you don't want to use Patreon, and I have a donation page. You can also donate with Bitcoin. Sharing the video is one of the best things you can do. If you like the video, share it on social media, show it to your friends, show it to a feminist, and red pill them all. As always, thanks for watching. This has been Mr. Obvious, and I'll see you all next time.